gave the players what they wanted. So I just wrapped up a 34-year-long campaign where all players' actions affect the world. They caused factions, toppled empires, turned NPCs into interesting side characters, built lore and so forth. I wanted to do a voiced ending, narrated professionally with neat sound ambience music that tells the future of each character thanks to their choices. I wrote it up, had it read out loud, edited it, added music and sent it as a MP3 to each player. It was tons of excitement and joy from all the players. They loved their outcomes and the cool references to their adventures. Until one said I can't wait to play that. I explained it's an ending and they wouldn't like it, since too much would have changed by that point. After all, 80 years is a very big time jump. The players talked and said they wanted it anyway, even if it was a one-shot, so they can interact with the future they made. I'm always willing to try new ideas, so I began writing up this future 80 years later. We began playing it, and immediately it was met with, WTF, the faction I liked is different now? They use what technology now? That village is a city? That village is gone. How is that character an archaeologist now? They studied magic. This doesn't feel like the other game anymore. The soul of it is totally different. So after 2 weeks of carefully plotting, what happened to each side character, play character, their kids, items, areas, and towns, the players who I told too much has changed. You won't like it. Now felt too much was changed. They don't like it. The stuff I did make was saved, and will probably make a return for even smaller adventures that are finely combed with references to the past. But as of now it's in the folder of failed and avoided quests. Side note, this didn't end with any bad feelings toward any of the players. I laughed it off, and struck it off as a loss. I play an archer, GM converts me to a monk. We had a new campaign and a different GM, so I wanted to try out something different from the norm. An archer sounded like an interesting challenge, so I built one. Tracking my ammo, scouting to plan combat, inevitably getting killed in close combat, because I literally don't have a second weapon. I was ready for the whole thing from start to death. The first game day we have the party is magically split up, so I climb a tree to look for them. Naturally the embodiment of death appears in front of me and plucks out my eyes. I'm now a blind archer. I hear a pack of rabbit dogs apparently coming up to me, so I do the only thing that makes sense, now that I'm worse than useless, and fall out of the tree to lay down and let the dogs kill me. The GM says I passed the test. Turns out death was some kind of Zen embodiment and now I'm a monk, so I don't need a bow. I told him that I keep waiting for the dogs. My DM decided to help our PC team as a DMPC. My DM decided to help our team by joining. Our DM created a character at the beginning of the game, which is fully understandable. The character was a story progressor, essentially. I have no problem with this. A character used to progress a story is fine. My problem is this. He made it, so his character has an infotisp that's not a joke. That's what his character sheet says. Can use any spell at will, and only has to touch something to kill it, as he has unlimited death touch. He also has roughly 20 large slimes. Every combat that we've had he decides that he wants to demonstrate his power to us. And does something new to just kill whatever enemy we are fighting. A giant king, that is basically a Dark Souls type character that he can kill in one turn. Oh man, that's fun for the players. I honestly didn't expect it to work. Is his excuse every time. I want to drop out of this campaign. But I don't want to upset my friend. What do I do? I'm not having fun just sitting there trying to do a fight where I get one turn before whatever we are fighting dies because he can do 50 d10 damage from a single spell. Then his slimes come right after him, doing basically the same thing. I don't know how, but they do. Am I overreacting, or are my player just wannabe hardcore? So, I recently got into D&D again after a horrible experience a few years ago, this time as a DM. I'm playing with 5 of my closest friends and we play twice a week, but I start to regret everything honestly. Apologies for mistakes, but English is not my first language. So, in my campaign, they are the chosen ones, and are fighting a few demons. Monsters, all for glory and fame. but they are kind of exaggerating it. Last session, I put them in dangerous terrain. They've never experienced a sandstorm before, since the world is pretty Middle European based. I was hoping for them to react to it. But instead they went sleeping, not even showing some kind of fear or concern for the spectacle. Like, I have never experienced a sandstorm either. But I'm pretty sure I wouldn't stop staring at it and being anxious when I asked if they don't want to look into it closer. They said, dude, we are adventurers, we fear nothing. Okay, cool. The session before, I had an evil mage manipulating them and showing them an alternative reality where everyone they loved was dead or tortured. Again, nothing. They just went on, unfazed. And again the explanation, I'm an adventurer, I'm confident and strong, nothing can scare me. Not even you seeing your mother getting ripped apart by a zombie elf? Okay, cool. Another time, I said they couldn't get a long rest since the environment was harsh. If they fell asleep, the fire would have gone out and they were all frozen to death. They wanted a long rest anyways. Because we are strong and powerful, we can handle it, followed by being mad at me when I did not kill them. But gave to levels of exhaustion due to freezing weather and their bodies not getting enough rest because they needed to fight the cold. Maybe that was unfair from my side, but I just wanted a reaction. I wanted a hint of fear, concern. Something that wasn't we are though bitches and nothing can kill us. I would have been happy with anything. But no. Not even a hint of exhaustion during roleplay. Okay. This is starting to get uncool. My question now is, am I just exaggerating? Or are they too far gone in their power fantasy? I get that they want to be the heroes. But I think me making them the chosen ones who are the only people who can destroy the evil is really enough for level 8. I'm honestly starting to lose interest. Edit. Okay, I got it. I made mistakes. I shouldn't have given them an option to kill someone in session 0. It's okay. I understand that I might have another idea of D&D. I'll talk to my players and educate myself on the matter. Thank you. A player got upset because I disrespected silver dragons. I have been playing with this group for a while. We have played a few short modules together. Now we decided to start a long campaign, and I was the DM. Our table had 4 other people, the sorcerer, the ranger, the paladin and the druid. This was supposed to be the first session of the campaign. All of them met in the village named Basra, named after a cloud giant who was sort of a legendary hero for the entire area after he had killed a silver dragon few decades ago. That had gone mad because of reasons no one knew, and Basra had to kill his old friend. They were supposed to form a group together for a festival event to bring a flower that bloomed each year where the dragon was killed. This story was where the ranger started arguing out of nowhere, not in character, but out of character with me saying that it didn't make sense, that a silver dragon was evil. I just said that it's the story you hear from the townsfolk, but she started arguing more out of character that a cloud giant couldn't possibly kill a silver dragon, even saying that I needed to learn to create stories that made sense and were true to how these creatures were supposed to be. I told her that this was uncalled for, and if she wanted to plot a 6A story she shouldn't have decided on me being the DM, and that I had spent close to a week planning the first few sessions and the places. She got quiet after this, and I didn't think much of it until someone else asked her to speak. She started crying, threw her stuff, and left the room. Her friends later texted saying that she wasn't used to confrontation and I shouldn't have put her in a spot. I'm still confused how I did that, and have no idea why this happened like this. I had thought she was a bit difficult to deal with previously, because even in previous games she had kept arguing until she got her way or just started pouting, but this time was just too ridiculous. Now we are down 2 players, because her friend left the table along with her. Edit. Thank you everyone for so many positive replies. The other 2 players really want to continue to play, so that's a positive. We are trying to see if we'll find more people interested in playing. Many people have asked about what the actual reason behind what had occurred was. I might not write about it here though, because my players know about this post now. I'm kicking a player out of my group for the first time, and it doesn't feel good at all. With all 3 PCs and myself been playing together for a little over a year, we went in person once everyone felt comfortable doing so. We started playing Curse of Strahd at that point. I'll also mention that we had all wanted to add at least 1, if not 2 more players, but we hadn't found anyone yet. Once we started that up, one player, the bard, started missing sessions. It started with 2 in a row. I would message after every session to make sure they were okay. I had finally gotten the response that they split up with their partner and needed time to get life straightened out. That's totally fine. I get it. They came back a week later and all was right with the world. Then it happened again. They missed 4 weeks in a row. Again, I messaged after every session to check in. It turns out they got a job in the evenings that conflicted with game time. Again, I get it. Life happens. Just tell me what's going on. So we changed to a day when they were available. I had no problem with it and neither did the other players. All was again right with the world. 3 weeks ago I was inundated with people that wanted to join the group all of a sudden. Not wanting to throw 2 new players right into COS, I devised a quick dungeon with a dragon, because why not, so they could get the gist of the game. I told everyone to roll characters and got no response from the bard. They didn't show, and also didn't show last week. I'm done with the absences and it's not fair to the others who are there. The new players have quite a drive ahead of them, and I don't want them to get there and not be able to play because someone didn't show without any kind of notice. So I'm kicking the bard out today. It's going to suck, but no one in the group has heard anything directly. All in all, not the worst horror story, but it has definitely caused me some grief. Self-proclaimed optimized healer forgets to heal, leading to my character's death. So I'm on a server with about a dozen friends or so, all of whom play D&D. We run several games with different DMs and players on different days. Most of us are pretty friendly, but one of my friends added in a new guy, a friend of his, Zane. I've played with him in one other game, but scheduling meant we hadn't really interacted much, so I didn't know what he was like as a player. So when a friend, Charlie, expressed a desire to start Ming, we all thought it would be cool to invite Zane. His first character set off a few red flags, which Charlie and I discussed between sessions. A homebrew race of Zane's own design that got natural armor, fire resistance, poison immunity and a terribly wooded innate spellcasting that implied he had cure wounds at will. I warned Charlie there could be some balance issues. But thankfully there ended up not being many owing to Zane playing dangerously and dying a few sessions in. His next character was a reborn healer, which consisted of 1 life cleric and 4 alchemist, which he had optimized to never let anyone die again, a sentiment Charlie agreed with, since he was still new to encounter balance. For a while it was all fine and dandy, but I did notice Zane rarely used healing spells, or in fact any features besides inflict wounds. And when the wizard got a fun boon to cast some druid spells he ended up healing significantly more. This, in conjunction Zane's insistence to keep going into melee despite having very little survivability, meant the marshals were often frustrated when they were injured and in need of healing. This all came to a head last session, where Charlie threw us up against a nasty monster with the ability to create areas where you couldn't move until someone pulled you out, and had the capability to do large amounts of ranged damage. As a rogue, I hid and started shooting the enemy, while the rest of the party, including our melee fighter Evan, were unable to move and started getting whittled down every turn. Evan tried to persuade Zane to drag him out, which the DM said could break the effect and was only 5 feet away, while Zane kept doing nothing besides cast Chill Touch every turn. Eventually I needed to take a shot that left me exposed, which led to a failed dex save knocking me down, which would have been all well and good, but despite my pleads Zane kept using Chill Touch. 3 failed death saves later, we realized Zane had been incredibly quiet, so when we listened we heard snoring. He'd fallen asleep. Naturally we weren't very pleased, but by now it was the end of the session. We haven't talked yet, but the next session is tonight, and I'm wondering how he's gonna explain himself. A pain many of you will feel. I've been Ming for a Pathfinder group for about 4 years now, since solidly before the lockdowns. Frequency has varied, but usually every week or every other week. We started at level 4 and are currently level 16. We have grown from trudging across the rural countryside in a wagon to scouring the depths of literal hell with that same wagon. It's been places, man. We have built up stories, plots, characters. We have numerous running gags. A player that had to step away has returned for the final stretch. I have plans for the conclusion of many plot lines, literally about to happen. I have a big thing ready to go involving a gag from the entire campaign long and a false Hydra. They are literally on the verge of bargaining with Asmodeus and killing a god. Over the past year, scheduling conflicts have increased. Players have started ghosting on sessions and apologizing after for oversleeping or something. Quite a bit of talk, but session after session gets called off. I'll claim next session happens even with only one of you. Then the one who does show never signs on because no one else says they are ready. It feels like some have lost interest and others have lost availability and all have lost accountability. We haven't played in months. I've actually given up at this point. I stopped asking. It pains me. We were this close. I could wrap this whole campaign up in 34 sessions. And I've told them this. Then, nothing. I know it's not as dramatic as a lot of the stories on here. But in my eyes it's a very real and very relatable horror. Guess I just needed to vent.